Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us today in Big Screen. We have a very special guest here with us today. This is author of Ready Player One, author of Ready Player Two, co-screenwriter of Ready Player One, the film. Here to talk with us today, Ernie. Thank you for coming on here.
Thank you for having me, Darshan. This is awesome.
I'm not actually sure if I'm in reality anymore, if I'm in VR, if this is a dream. I don't know. This is amazing. Thank you.
Thank you. I've been looking forward to this. Every Monday night I have like a movie night and also play Risk with my friends. We'll have like Risk on one half of the screen and like a movie on the other half. And all through quarantine this past year, it's been like a godsend. It was a godsend before that because I have friends spread out across the country. But this even more so. I ended up sending an Oculus Quest to all my friends and family just so we could hang out and use big screen, and for no other reason.
That's
I'm the real
incredible.
deal. I'm a true fan.
So I remember reading Ready Player One when it came out, what, in 2011? Then
Yes.
VR, like consumer VR, launched in 2016, the Oculus Rift and everything like that, with Palmer Luckey. And then in 2018, the movie came out. And now in 2020, we have Ready Player Two, and the book is out. Everybody's is reading it right now. I haven't had a chance to read it just yet because we're filming this a little bit in advance, a few days in advance of the book coming out. I can't wait to read it. It's looking like it's going to be one of the biggest books of 2020. That's amazing.
I'm excited. I worked really hard on it, and I had the reader and fans of the book, the first book, in mind as I was writing this. And I'd written another novel in between, so I've learned a lot. And I working on the movie, I learned a lot. Working with Steven, he's somebody who's like shaped my storytelling sensibility since I was a kid, just by watching his films and then getting to work with him even more so, and seeing how he tells a story was hugely beneficial to me as a writer. And he actually let me read some of his unpublished screenplays that I'd always wanted to read, and so he's really kind to writers too. So I was not shy about letting him read it. I was shy about letting him read early drafts. I had to work on it quite a bit, Ready Player Two, before I was ready to show it to him. So that was the big pressure, knowing he was going to be one of the first people to read it when I was done. But also knowing all the fans out there of the first book were eventually going to read it. That was constantly in my mind, and I hope you guys all enjoy it.
Can you tell us a little bit more about where you took the franchise, the world of Ready Player One in Ready Player Two?
Well, I kind of advanced the technology of the Oasis because in the real world, we've already almost kind of caught up with that technology. There are already haptic gloves and haptic suits, and we have all of that in 2020, and Ready Player One is set in 2045. So I wanted to evolve the virtual reality technology to use a brain-computer interface as opposed to a visor and gloves, and that's something that already is like Elon Musk is working on. That several different companies are working on a brain-computer interface concurrently. And I've always been fascinated with that technology as depicted in science fiction, like Neuromancer or the films Brainstorm and Strange Days. You ever see those flicks?
I
They're
haven't.
both really amazing films that kind of deal with technology that allows you to simulate a human experience and record human experience and then play it back. So that kind of technology, coupled with virtual reality technology, was something I wanted to explore in kind of this next version of the Oasis. That once Wade wins the contest, the story picks up just like a few weeks later, and he discovers this new technology, is kind of waiting for Halliday's heir to discover it, because he didn't want to roll it out himself, because he was already sick and dying at that point, and wanted to leave it to his heir to decide, because Halliday is no longer going to live in that world, and his heir does have to live in it, so he needs to decide if this technology is a good or a bad thing. So that was kind of my jumping off point for Ready Player Two, and I wanted to kind of capture the way that technology companies wrestle with or right now are wrestling with the implications of their platforms and the way that they distribute information and affect people's lives. I think that's the job of a science fiction writer, is to take technology and then extrapolate it into the future, and then depict or think about how that technology is going to affect everyday people's lives. And so that's what I try to do with Ready Player One and with Ready Player Two.
That's insanely cool because Ready Player One somehow has almost predicted the future that we're living in today. You're talking about like virtual classrooms and staying at home, but you're actually going to class virtually with your schoolmates. You're talking
Yeah.
about virtual avatars and identities and severe economic and political issues in the world. And weirdly enough, well, we're kind of living in that right now. We have virtual reality headsets that we're doing this conversation in, and I couldn't have even imagined that this would actually be a reality. But you predicted all that.
No, that was, and when this happened, it was actually one of my first thoughts was a big screen when the pandemic happened and my daughter started having to go home, go to school from home via Zoom, and the kids are just stuck on Zoom all day. My first thought was, oh, if they could meet in big screen, if everybody had a virtuality headset,
right,
which is the big leap, then you could have like a classroom in big screen, and the teacher could share their screen and your software already. I'm sure some teachers have already figured that out and are using it for that. But the potential for virtual reality, because it's different than a Zoom call, like we were talking about before. When you're in big screen, you're inside a shared virtual space that you can move around in and interact with the space. And it makes you, after you hang out in big screen, it makes you feel like you really hung out with somebody. It's pretty profound.
Totally. I think reading a lot of Ready Player One, probably like subconsciously or whatever, way back in the day, would have influenced even design decisions that we're doing now because we never wanted big screen to be just purely about movies. It was always about just bringing people together from around the world to do all sorts of activities together, whether we're watching a movie together, playing games together, like you mentioned, Risk, or even just working together, collaborating and teaching together. It's just, I think it's just a matter of time before these headsets get widespread enough, cheap enough, light enough, etc. And we're slowly getting there.
Yeah, well, they're already, your VR headset is now cheaper than a phone, or about the same price as a
True.
phone, and can sync with your phone instead of with a PC. So already, I think, just as it gets smaller and better and easier to use, and more people adopt it, and now we see the benefits of hanging out in virtual reality as opposed to reality. And as much as you can simulate that feeling of hanging out, I think it'll just be hugely beneficial to and keeping people connected. It's so much better than a phone call. Is a big screen hangout, in my opinion.
This is amazing. Thank you. So, what got you into VR in the first place?
Well, I was always a huge fan of video games, and I couldn't wait for video games to evolve until I could, be inside them. And I think it's the game of like the dream of every gamer, and I remember thinking that way back when I had an Atari. I'm like, felt like transported, even with those early graphics. It was, I felt like I was inside the game or wanted to, and you